So, welcome everybody to this special edition of Agree to Disagree on Zoom. This is our, I think, 8th episode via this format after we left school. And alongside me, Noah Schwartz, are Jack Acello, Aidan Chard, and a special guest for us today from our media industries class, Mihrab Samad. So it's Mihrab's first episode that we've had him on here, but he'll be with us today instead of Dean. And we've got a couple topics on deck today. So the first thing we're going to talk about is The Last Dance, the Michael Jordan documentary, and go over parts 5 and 6 of that. And then we're going to talk about Andy Dalton to the Cowboys, a signing that I think a lot of people didn't expect, but another quarterback off the board, and only Cam Newton remains among big names at the quarterback position. So let's start and jump right in. So Jack, what did you think of last night with The Last Dance and the big documentary? What were your thoughts?
I liked it. I thought the two before. I thought 4 and 5 or 3 and 4 were a little more interesting. I like the stuff with like the bad boys and going into that detail. But
Vegas Rodman.
Yeah, I thought that was a lot more interesting than this one was. But I thought it was still very entertaining and it was very interesting. I like the parts about like when they're trying to repeat and then they talked about the three-peat. Like Michael Jordan, he found that he was annoyed that people were comparing him to Clyde Drexler, and I thought that was like so funny. And it's like he holds himself so much higher than that, and I respect that. The parts I didn't like about it, well, because I didn't think it needed to go in that direction. But before I go into that, I want to say I love the tribute to Kobe that they gave in the beginning.
Yeah, that was good.
Nice. But I didn't like the part where they're talking about how he didn't step in and do anything in that mayoral race, right?
The Senate race?
Yeah, the senator race. Okay. Like, I didn't like that. I didn't find that interesting. And I think Aidan and Mihrab, not Aidan, Mihrab, Noah and Mihrab will know what I'm about. We'll know. Remember what Professor Mirabito said about Michael Jordan? It's like, of course, I don't like that he's the whitest. He's the whitest, like.
What?
You know what I'm talking about, right?
I know what you're saying. Yeah, he's like the white.
He's always.
He doesn't get involved in politics because.
Yeah, he's always playing golf and then smoking cigars.
Okay.
So like, I thought that part wasn't interesting, and it really didn't have to do with basketball and like his drive to be the best. So I didn't really think that part was interesting.
Aidan, go ahead.
Yeah, I actually disagree, honestly, because I really like seeing those bits outside of, like, Michael Jordan off the court is really interesting to me, because I feel like this documentary is not just about, the way he played. It's also about his life, his career, and that encapsulates so many other things than just what he did on the court and in the locker room. And additionally, like, they've painted him so much as like a perfect citizen, he can do no wrong, all these great things about him. It's really good to throw in these things to show, he wasn't exactly the best person ever. I mean, he was kind of a bad teammate to some people. He had what some would say is a gambling problem, and then that whole issue with the mayoral race. I personally thought that was very interesting to see that side of him, because I've never seen anything like that about Michael Jordan. But overall, I love the documentary. I think it's really, really good, much better than I thought it was going to be. I have to say, I love the way they formatted it. How it's, it started with the beginning of the 97-98 season and then jumped back to the beginning of his career, and it's kind of following two storylines at once.
Yeah, exactly.
They're both moving forward together. I think that's really, really cool. That's a really great way of formatting this. And like, even though I know exactly what happens, I'm really excited to see how it ends.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see the next episode, because I want to see them go into the part where like he was off for like a year and a half and why he did that specifically. I'm really interested to see that part. But also, what did you guys think of the part about Tony Kukoc? I thought that was incredibly interesting.
Oh, I think that they did Tony Kukoc so wrong. I know Michael and Scotty love to make up rivalries and make up ways to motivate themselves in their head. But Tony Kukoc was just an innocent kid from Europe, and just because Jerry Krause liked him means that he's an enemy. Like, I didn't get that. It just, I don't know. I just feel like they took it the wrong way.
Part of it was just them trying to prove to Jerry Krause that, like, listen, we're better than Kukoc. stop focusing on Kukoc when you gotta pay us too.
Yeah, that's what
But
I didn't like
do
about
feel
it.
bad
Like,
for him.
in the Dream Team, have you guys ever seen the Dream Team documentary? Back
Yeah.
No, I haven't.
in that one, they even come out and say that it wasn't us versus him; it was us versus Jerry Krause. They even said that, and I gotta say, this whole documentary has made Jerry Krause look like just an awful person. In
Yeah.
general.
I wish he was alive to stand up for himself. He's no longer alive, unfortunately. But if he was, I would have loved to see what he would have
Yeah.
had to say about all
This
this.
has made him look like an awful.
How about you, Mihrab? What do you think?
Of the document of like part 5 and 6.
Yeah.
I thought it was very. I actually agree with Aidan. I think Michael Jordan as a he's a professional athlete, of course. He's paid to play the game, but he's also a public figure. So I feel as though it was necessary to put that part into the documentary because, like this one Mirabito said, because he's a as a professional athlete, you also have an outlook. Kids look up to you, and that's why he says that people should be public athletes need to be like spokespersons for the public for sure, not just let me play my game and make money. That's it. But yeah, and yeah, it was I liked it so far though. It's going really well.
I have to agree with you, you and Aidan, for sure about the stuff off the court. I think it's really cool to see how he isn't some basketball god the way that maybe he's described for a lot of people as, and he has real human issues that other people have to deal with as well. But the thing that was probably the coolest to me about last night was, and you mentioned it, Jack, the tribute to Kobe Bryant. I think this is really cool. How you take a kid who comes out of high school and a year and a half really into his career, he's already built this relationship that is so tight and almost like a father-son relationship with a guy who is at that time the greatest player in the game undisputedly.
Still
and
is.
it's strange because you think about that All-Star game and in 98 and at that point Kobe Bryant wasn't even a starter on the Lakers. And you might not realize that, but Eddie Jones and Nick Van Exel were the two starting guards for that team in 98. And so Bryant wasn't even starting, but he got the All-Star nod because he got so many votes from the fans. But it's just funny to see how a guy who really hadn't accomplished much of anything at that point in his career because he wasn't even a starter and wasn't one of the top players on the Lakers, still was able to create a connection with the greatest player in the game. And you think about how many kids and how many young players come into the league every year, and how many of them at that time were obviously idolizing Jordan because he was the greatest player and because they grew up watching him and how many memories he gave them. And you think of that, and yet he was able to create a connection so close with just one individual player. Because you think that everybody would try to be so close with Jordan, but yet this one guy who Jordan obviously saw so much of himself in was able to create such a bond and make it so strong over the course of over 20 years. So I thought that was the most interesting part about Kobe Bryant.
He's a carbon copy, Kobe Bryant. It's kind of crazy. And Michael Jordan's mentioned this before. He says he could take on he said he could take on anyone in their primes, anyone, LeBron James. Like this was like an interview he did. But he said, Kobe Bryant, it'll be close because he stole all my moves. Yeah.
He looked the same
Kobe,
playing. It's weird.
Kobe even said in the thing, like, if we went one-on-one, who would win? Half the stuff I'm doing is from him, so it's not even a conversation. Like, he even said that in the Last Dance.
What'd you guys think of the Dream Team stuff? I love the Dream Team.
I like
Isaiah
that.
Thomas.
I honestly wish they'd put more time into that.
Yeah.
But what I wanted to see was more about like the formation of the team rather than Michael Jordan on the team, and I get why they didn't do that because this is more about Jordan.
And I always say this about the Dream Team, like, it could have had all Hall of Famers. Like, Christian Laettner is the one guy who's not a Hall of Famer. They picked one kid from college out. If they were going to pick one person from college, I never understood why it wasn't Shaquille O'Neal, who was the best.
Jack, at that time, Christian Laettner was the more accomplished college player.
He was the most decorated college player of all time, and if you compare
probably,
their careers, Laettner over Shaq in college for sure.
It didn't work out that way in the pros, but in collge, Laettner was the more decorated player.
Yeah, I understand that. If it just imagine, like, if it was Shaq, then the whole team is Hall of Famers. That's the only
Oh
thing.
my God, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
What did you guys think about Isaiah Thomas?
I mean, it makes sense because even though you have the resume, you have to also have a good attitude. That's why they didn't want to play with him. Like it just shows to you. This applies to all walks of life. You may have all the skills to be to be the best at your job, but that doesn't mean that doesn't mean people want to work with you.
Yeah, and also it kind of in a way it almost ruins his legacy. Well, he's a great player. Like Michael Jordan said, he's the second greatest point guard of all time. But like I feel like he'd be remembered so much higher to say he was on the Dream Team, and if he didn't have such a bad reputation as a player, I feel like his legacy would be a lot better than it actually is. Because all like I'm gonna say Michael Jordan is the hero in this perspective. Every hero always needs a villain. Like Peyton Manning is not Peyton Manning without having to overcome Tom Brady in that sense. So like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, but I mean to be fair, it's the bad boy Pistons. So it's in the name. It's implied. So I feel like,
and also
I agree with that.
Yeah.
I just think that if you think about the bad boy Pistons, they didn't win championships with this immense talent. Like they didn't have all these Hall of Fame players. It was really like Isaiah Thomas, Joe Dumars, and a bunch of tough guys. They're not going to win championships if they didn't play that way. So I don't see why it's Isaiah's fault. He had all the credentials to be there.
Well, he's the leader, but also the Last Dance did a good job of covering this. They all just make it. Jordan is the scapegoat. They just make it like it was him that was the only guy that didn't like Isaiah Thomas. But really, it said it in the thing. Magic Johnson didn't like him. Larry Bird didn't like him. Scottie Pippen didn't like him. It was more than just Jordan. It was almost half the team that didn't want him playing.
That's probably because he was a competitor. That's why I don't think like no NBA players like plan to play in the Olympics.
Yeah,
like
then,
that's the thing. Because I think Isaiah Thomas like he showed off his fierceness wherever he went. That's why he was very loyal to the Pistons. So that's probably why that's why he literally did anything to it in the NBA. He probably didn't plan on playing with all these people in the first place. That's the thing.
Yeah, but he was a jerk on the court, and he didn't play with sportsmanship, and that's what
he got forced into a role that I don't think he necessarily wanted to play by playing with the Pistons, and he just kind of stuck with that role of being with the bad boys. And the thing is, especially when you're playing on a team like that prides itself on a tough show of unity, you can't be the one to step away from the pack and show compassion, show empathy, or good sportsmanship. You cannot do that, especially in those days. So like I feel bad for Isaiah Thomas for sure about that.
Yeah.
What do you guys think about Sam Smith's book, The Jordan Rules? Do you think
barely
Jordan was
that.
unfairly blamed for some of the problems within the locker room?
They barely covered that, but from what I see, no.
Okay.
I don't think it was unfair.
Yeah.
I thought it was unfair to Horace Grant because he clearly
yeah. It was unfair to Horace Grant.
He wasn't the one that leaked that stuff, and yet he was being blamed for it by, I think Will Perdue called him out in one interview, and I know Jordan called him out. So I thought that was a little unfair. If you're going to say that Jordan didn't initiate Isaiah not being on the Dream Team, how can you make the assumption that when Horace Grant denies the fact that that he wasn't the one that leaked the information, that you can just accuse him that way? So I didn't think that was very fair.
But of course, also everybody is going to deny being the one to leak the information. Nobody wants to be the snitch.
Nobody's going to say they did it. I agree with Aidan on that.
And it's of course it's the same with Michael Jordan and the Dream Team. Like he's never gonna, even if it is true that he denied Isaiah Thomas the spot, he's never gonna come out and admit it and say that he was the one. That's not how it works. You're gonna keep that tight-lipped and you're gonna lie as much as you can about it.
Yeah. The thing I love the most about the whole part of the Dream Team, and let me know, I want to know your guys' opinions on this, when they were going over that series, that absolute competitive practice they had, where it was like Michael, literally he finally overcame Magic Johnson, and it's like it's no longer Magic's league, it became MJ's league.
Yeah.
What do you guys think?
I thought that storyline was overrated. Here's why. Magic didn't even play in the NBA before that season. Like he didn't play in '92 leading to the Olympics. So it was Michael's league anyway. He had won 2 titles and beat Magic the year before. I thought that storyline was a little ridiculous, but I don't know. It's Jordan's documentary, so I get why they put it in there.
I like that. I found it interesting.
Right, so I think we can move on to our next topic, if that's okay with everybody.
Sure.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, totally.
So as you guys all know, on I think it was Saturday maybe, Andy Dalton, the former Cincinnati Bengals quarterback, one of the great players in history of that franchise, was replaced officially by first overall pick Joe Burrow, and Dalton became a free agent and then signed on Saturday with the Dallas Cowboys. It's a 1-year contract to back up Dak Prescott for, I think it's $3 million guaranteed and up to $7 million with incentives and bonuses. So what do you guys think of the move, and do you think that it is a shot at Dak to eventually get his contract done, or that maybe Dak may be replaced sooner than we all thought?
It's crazy. We already knew Dak Prescott wasn't even the best quarterback in Texas. I mean, Deshaun Watson's got that. But now he's not even the best quarterback on the Cowboys. That's ridiculous. No, here's the thing. If I'm Jerry Jones, I no longer want Dak Prescott to sign that franchise tag. I would much rather have Andy Dalton as my starter over Dak Prescott any day of the week. And I will hold firm to that. I think Andy Dalton had bad coaching and he was set up in bad teams. And of course, he's not a great quarterback, but I believe in him way more than I believe in Dak Prescott. I think they're getting him for a steal, honestly. $7 million is a lot for a backup, but right now, I mean, they have no idea whether or not Dak's going to sign that tag, so that's a great deal for them, with him potentially being the starter. Who knows what's going to happen this season? So,
go ahead, Mihrab.
Yeah, no, it's an interesting thing for sure. I like it. Andy Dalton. He as Aidan said, his coaching wasn't the best at the Bengals, and moving forward, this is good competition for Dak to really put pressure on him, and it improves the Cowboys. They have you could say shaky backup quarterback situation before this for sure.
Super rush.
Yeah.
And like the league saw last season, it is so incredibly important for a team to have a good backup. You know,
Tell that to the Jets.
Hey, they did grab
need to worry about getting a good starter.
Oh, Luke Falk, man. Luke Falk. Respect him.
Jesus.
All right, Dak, what do you think?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing to me about the whole Dalton signing is it's leverage. It brings leverage back to Jerry Jones in the contract negotiations that I believe Dak had before this, because before they signed Dalton, I'm sure Dak was saying, if you're not going to pay me, then you're not going to pay me and I hold out. What are you going to have? You're going to have Cooper Rush or Mike White go out there and be the quarterback for you guys? Cooper Rush has completed three passes in his whole career. But now they have Dalton, so Jerry Jones can pretty much say, if you don't want to come and sign this contract, that's fine. I got Andy Dalton, the guy who's definitely capable with all these weapons around him and a good offensive line. He can definitely get us into the playoffs. That's the biggest thing. But another big thing I like about it in terms of having Dak, it does put a little bit of pressure on him to perform. And this kind of goes back to, for me at least, his rookie season, when once Tony Romo got healthy and there was a lot of question marks about who the Cowboys going to go with at that point. I think that kind of made Dak play better, knowing that there's a good guy behind him, and if he doesn't play well, then he could potentially get replaced. So this is going to make Dak play a lot harder than he normally has, and it gives the best thing for the Cowboys is now that if Dak goes down, they have a solid backup that can definitely win.
Yeah,
I completely agree with you, Jack. The negotiating part of this is maybe the most important part. For sure, it gives the Cowboys so much leverage because, as you said, if Dak's like, I don't want to play here, I'm out, or I'm going to hold out, or I'm not going to be a part of this going forward. Jerry Jones can always be like, hey, I got Andy Dalton, he can win. He's from Texas, he's comfortable in our situation, he'll be fine. And as you said, Jack, the weapons are as good as any team in the league. Now that they got CeeDee Lamb, just add another receiver in there. They can run the ball. They're good defensively. They can rush the passer. They've got a good offensive line. Every single part of that roster is mostly set. And the one part that there were question marks was quarterback because of Dak's contract situation and because he didn't play too well last year. I know the numbers don't really tell the story because he threw for almost 5,000 yards and his numbers are really excellent. But the impact and the effect it had on winning was not very good. And so getting Dalton in there at least gives them an insurance policy. And I honestly think that they should have a short leash with Dak if he doesn't perform early in the season. Again, they had an 8-8 year last year. They're much better than an 8-8 roster. They should be a playoff team. They should be a Super Bowl contender, and they weren't last season. If Dak gets off to a slow start and is the reason for why this team is struggling, why not go with Andy Dalton? It's not like he hasn't been to the playoffs a bunch of times and has had experience in big games. He's done that, and he's been in pressure situations before. So I don't see the reason for why not to play Dalton if the opportunity arises.
Yeah, but like you said, though, like they went 8-8, like his numbers were good, but part of it, I don't blame all of it on Dak Prescott. The person I blame a little bit of it more on is their offensive coordinator, Kellen Moore. But he was young. It was his first season calling plays. I think he's going to be a lot better this year because I think the thing that he struggled with is when everything didn't go according to plan. He just forgot what makes the Cowboys offense work, and he was just having Dak throw the ball everywhere. That's not how the Cowboys work. I think Dak is at his best when he's out of play action, especially you play. The key is you don't play through Dak. You have to play through Zeke. When Zeke is cooking, the Cowboys offense, in my opinion, cannot be stopped. So even if you fall behind, he has to stick to the run. That's when Dak is at his best, and that's when the Cowboys are at their best.
The Cowboys last season tried to be a pass-first offense. They
Exactly.
need to be a run-first offense.
Yes. No,
Zeke
they be a pass-first offense
miles ahead of
aren't
any
good.
quarterback.
Against teams that aren't good.
Well, they've got to punish the ball down people's throats with offensive line too.
Yeah.
Because if they play a scrappy brand of football, they're really tough.
But also, I want to say this. You can be a pass-first team, but before you go pass-first, like you can pass 20 more times than you run in the game. But before you do that, like set up the run first. So make the defense know. Like say on the first drive of a game, run the ball 7 times and have Zeke get 45 yards on a scoring drive. That's established. So we know we can average 5 yards a carry on this play. So you're going to have to worry for that. Then Dak can throw the ball the rest of the game because they're going to be so worried about the run. You could be a pass-first team in that sense.
Yeah.
So Dalton,
no, go ahead.
I want to bring this up. For Dalton, what do you think this means for him going forward? If let's say he doesn't get the starting job, let's say he serves the season as the backup and he's mostly lives in obscurity this year. Do you think he can be a franchise quarterback again, or do you think he is now at the point where he is settled in as a backup and that's going to be where he is the rest of his career?
I think it's going to depend. I mean, we've seen a lot of there's a lot of question marks that are going to come next season. We have no idea how the Panthers are going to do with their quarterback situation. We don't know how the Bears are going to do. Drew Brees might retire at the end of the season. Tom Brady might retire at the end of the season. We have no idea what's going to happen in Pittsburgh. There are a lot of teams that could have big question marks at the end of this season. And Andy Dalton signed to a 1-year deal. So sure, there's a chance that he stays with the Cowboys or some other team as a backup. There's also a really big chance that some team that isn't satisfied with their quarterback this year or somebody retires, I could see him taking over as a starter again.
Okay.
Yeah, for me, it's kind of interesting. It depends really how the situation goes. If it's kind of like a Marcus Mariota situation, like it was in Tennessee, where he'll be able to get a shot and prove he can go, then maybe he'll get another chance to be a starter again, like a full-time starter in the game. But the problem is, and I keep saying this, it's because none of these guys retire, that all these like middle-of-the-pack game managers have nowhere to go.
For sure, Jack. That's true.
What?
I see. Yeah, no, you're 100% right. These quarterbacks, they play so long now that the guys who aren't the young stars at college in the first round have nowhere.
Whether you're the upstart rookie or you're the Hall of Fame 40-year-old quarterback, the guy in the middle, the game managers have nowhere to go, and it's kind of sad for them. But like in a way, like Jameis Winston,
the game has changed. Game manager quarterbacks aren't the quarterbacks you want under center anymore.
Yeah, obviously. I'm not saying like Ryan Fitzpatrick is like the only game manager that's probably going to be out there next season, like that has the job. Go week 1.
Derek Carr, guys like that.
Yeah, well, it's as of now until they get a quarterback. I'm gonna believe it's still Derek Carr's team.
Okay.
Andy Dalton probably made the best decision like this going forward with the Cowboys because they have a he's a really really good quarterback for his talent, and then he signed with the Cowboys who have Dak Prescott but seem to be struggling with them too. So he's probably going to make the best out of his situation, and let's see what happens next.
Mihrab, I'm actually going to disagree with you just on one point. Not the Cowboys are the best team to go to, but in terms of Dalton for him, where he'll get the best chance to play, I heard the Jets were interested in him. I think the Jets would have been a better situation just because I feel he would have got more of an opportunity to play. Not because he's better than Darnold, just because Darnold has yet to play a full 16 games in a regular season. He's been he's been a lot more injury prone than Dak Prescott. That's one thing you'd say about Dak is he's very durable. He has not missed a snap in his whole career.
But Jack, I think that the Jets have more invested right now in Sam Darnold than the Cowboys do in Dak.
Yeah,
I agree.
That's what I believe.
We have
People
no
are still
idea.
have very high expectations for Sam Darnold right now.
With-
Like ridiculous expectations.
With Dak having not signed his tag yet, there's still, we have no idea what's going to happen there. I agree with Mihrab. It does make a lot of sense for him to sign there because best case scenario, he gets to start and he's not making a ton of money. Worst case scenario, he's getting paid $7 million to be a backup.
Yeah.
And either of those are great chances for him, great cases for him.
Yeah.
So
we've got a few minutes left before we got to go. I just want to mention some on the other quarterback who's still waiting to be signed, and that's Cam Newton. Dalton and Newton were the two guys who were sitting, waiting out to see how the draft would go, and
Winston, but
see what other quarterbacks would
Yeah,
sign.
well,
That was nice by the Saints. I like that signing.
Flacco's still out there, but I mean he's not going to be
and there you go, Flacco. So, but really, Kim is the only guy who's
and he's the only guy who has the potential to be a starter. Yeah,
right. So where do you think Cam ends up now? Because we've heard New England, but then we've heard they're not really interested. We've heard the Chargers before. So where do you think this goes now?
I really have no idea where it's going to go. It's really interesting. It's like such a shame. It's like so ridiculous to say a talent like Cam Newton doesn't have a job in the NFL.
How long ago did he win MVP?
This guy was an MVP.
Like 4 years ago.
4 years ago.
Really recently.
He was the NFL MVP. Like, how does he not have a job? But also, there's another topic I want to talk about, and I found this interesting. Did you guys see Jameis Winston's comments about being replaced by Tom Brady? He's like, it took the greatest of all time to replace me.
That's
like, you're happy with being replaced by a 43-year-old man who's on the decline? It's like,
what is the worst season of his career last year?
Yeah. It's like, are you what? Why are you happy about that?
Yeah. All right. I think that's all the time we got today. Noah, any final thoughts?
No. I just wanted to mention for Cam, I just like Jack said, I feel awful for the guy. He's one of the most talented players we've seen in the last 15 years in this league and can't even find a job. But we'll see what happens with that. I assume that a quarterback will go down at some point because it's just bound to happen, and he'll probably find a spot somewhere. But I don't think a starting job like he wants.
I don't think he's starting.
He's not a week one.
Going into week one, I don't think he'll be a starter. I'm going to say this just because it's happened the last 2 years. I'm calling Matt Stafford. As much as I love him, I'm sure he'll go down again, and I could see Cam Newton sliding in.
Yeah, if I had to pick a spot, I'd say Jacksonville. But
yeah, Jacksonville. I think they're just tanking. Jacksonville is fully in there. They're tanking for Trevor.
Right. That's the other
on for them.
You have to keep that in mind. All right. I think that's all the time we've got today. We wanted to keep this at about a half an hour long, so that's all the time we do have. But thanks for viewing, and we'll be back soon with another episode of Agree to Disagree. So again, it's Noah, Jack, Mihrab, and Aidan signing off.